The regular meeting of the Leominster Conservation Commission for August 9th, 2016. I just want to start by apologizing apologizing for starting late this evening, but now we got it under control. Let's start with our first hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, there'll be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent by Ryan Development LLC for the construction of a new 6,000 square foot commercial building with associated parking, utilities, landscaping, and stormwater management upgrades within the 100-foot buffer zone of a bordering vegetated wetland. Address 207 Mill Street, map 567, lot 15, DEP file number 1991034. Marco received an email today?
Yep, today at 11:42. And it says, "Hi Marco, please continue tonight's meeting with the commission to September 13th. Thanks, signed Randy Byron with Bowler Engineering."
Okay. So they're asking for a continuance. Is anyone here this evening to speak on this notice of intent? Okay. Do I have a motion to continue until September 13th?
File a motion for DEP 199-1034, 207 Mill Street, to the September 13th meeting.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Thank you. 705 hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, there'll be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent by Margot Xeris for the construction of 2 industrial buildings with associated parking, landscaping, and stormwater management systems within bordering land subject to flooding associated with the Nashua River. Address 1798 Lock Drive, map 323, lot 1. And we don't have a DEP file number for this yet.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Kent Oldfield, representing Margo Gazaris. And they're proposed to build 2 industrial buildings, one 25,000 square feet and one a little less than 5,000 square feet. It's located at the end of Lock Drive. North is in this direction, Nashua River. To give you a basis where we are, Home Depot is over in this location. Okay. All stormwater from the entire site goes in this detention basin, which meets just the DEP stormwater management. We have hoods in the one catch basin here, and this is all overland flow with no catch basins, so it'll be have the vegetated cover down to the detention basin. What we're requesting for tonight is just compensatory storage for land subject to flooding. This is the 100-foot riparian zone. In yellow is the 100-foot buffer zone, hay bales, and the red is the 200-foot riparian zone. So we're outside of all land, all resource areas. The flood zone is in this location. We have, at this point, 10,000, we're filling 10,066 cubic yards of flood storage, and we're compensatory storage of 15,000 cubic yards. That does not include the basin, which is an additional volume for compensatory storage area, because we are down below the floodplain in that area as well. Stormwater with this will be there and gone by the time the flood rises for the riverfront area. And I'll open for questions.
Do any commission members have any questions? With the reminder that this is, they're out of the riverfront and it's floodplain only.
For the flood storage, you just kind of lowering the
lowering this right here. These are going to be. It's all right here. This flood storage.
Okay.
So we're taking it between the buildings. So if you look at the buildings, it'll be concrete down.
Okay.
So we'll have footing.
Yeah.
4 feet down. So you'll be looking at the first floor up here.
Okay.
So this is all compensatory here and all the way around here.
Okay.
Any other commission members?
No, at this time, no.
And who's going to be responsible for the maintenance of the stormwater?
The landowners will be responsible for it.
Okay.
This building on here.
Okay. You have,
we did submit the drainage cutters as well as the stormwater, the SWIP as well.
yeah.
Which we haven't submitted the NOI yet until such time we start construction.
I'm just looking, it doesn't say how often sediment has to be removed.
Typically what they do in the big ones, sedimentation in the basins are yearly, catch basins. These are usually done on a 5-year basis, only because it's such a large area. This is not gonna have a lot of salt and sand on it.
Okay. What about inspections? Do you have any?
There's
Routine
inspections, there's inspection sheets in the notice of intent under the SWIP, and those are done yearly. And then also during construction, we have inspections as well.
Okay. All right. Any other commission members?
No.
Marco, have you looked at the calculations?
Yeah.
Good.
Consider, the DPW also had, we did get approval from the planning board on this project last week. They had they wanted to do a couple test pits. A little history on this project, there was a lot of trash and stuff that was actually called in by DEP at one time. That was all been cleared up, and they just wanted a couple test pits to confirm everything was gone, so.
Okay. Could we also get copies of whatever planning
Sure.
board gets?
I can notify when we do the test pits and maybe Mark come out, because I know Mark Cremery wants to be out there as well.
Sure.
Great. Any other commission members?
Real quick, do you have a time frame as when you prefer to start construction on this project?
Tomorrow.
Do you have a realistic time frame?
Realistic time frame, it's gonna be
Yeah.
as soon as the appeal period's up, you know, he wants to get out there. So I think you'll probably see in the next, couple days, these hay bales going out there. They're gonna start this fall, at least get the slab in for the big building. Not sure about the small building.
Okay. Dan, are you all set? Good? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this notice of intent this evening? For the second time? And the third and final time? Is there any objections to closing the public hearing?
None.
Okay. I know we don't have a DEP file number for this yet. Would there be a problem with commission members holding a signature pending no DEP comments on this project?
I have no issue with that. It's fine.
Okay. Marco, do you have any recommendations before I close the hearing?
I noticed on the plans how there's the silt fence and straw wattle line, they don't connect. What's the commission's opinion on having those
You want
closed in? Correct, yeah.
as a line, that's a good comment. I mean, that's kind of a line of no touch zone, so we can connect them. That's not a problem.
Make that a condition.
Sure.
Okay. For the last time, is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this notice of intent? Sorry, Marco.
No problem.
Okay, declare the public hearing closed. Did you have some other recommendations?
No, I was just gonna recommend a standard order of conditions for this project with a boilerplate and the condition to encompass the entire work area or the limit of work with silt fence straw wattles.
Okay.
I would also like to get any copies of inspections and anytime maintenance is performed to be notified either by email or in writing. Do I have a motion to issue on Marco's recommendation or something different?
I'll make a motion for standard order conditions with the boilerplate, the limit of work to be wrapped with the hay bales and straw wattles, and for the commission to be copied on any inspections and maintenance or repairs to the, I don't know if you said repairs, but the maintenance of the stormwater
Yes.
infrastructure.
And notified of the soil test pits.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second
Any
that.
further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, 7:10 hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, there'll be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent by the Fitchburg Municipal Airport Commission for vegetation management with an easement obtained on 15 off-airport parcels for compliance with FAA CMR 14, Part 77. Work will occur within bank bordering vegetated wetlands, riverfront area, bordering land subject to flooding and associated buffer zones. Map and lot numbers 226-13, 226-14, 226-15, 227-1, 227-12, 227-3, 229-1A, 229-1B, 244-1A, 246-1, 246-2, 246-3, 248-13, 248-14, 248-15, DEP file number 199-1035. We have someone representing the applicant this evening.
I do, thank you, appreciate it. My name is Matt Caron. I work for a company called Gale Associates. We provide engineering and planning services on behalf of the Fitchburg Municipal Airport. With me this evening is Dan Nitschke, an environmental specialist with GZA Geoenvironmental. In the Fitchburg Municipal Airport, Airport Manager Scott Ellis apologizes for not being here this evening. He had a prior engagement, so.
I need to disclose that my company does business with GZA. We do all of their printing. I do not get any commissions or benefits from that said relationship.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So the reason why I'm here this evening is back in 2013, the FAA Eastern Flights Procedures Team notified the Fitchburg Municipal Airport of trees that are penetrating through the airport's approach surface. An approach surface, this is a kind of a silly diagram here, but an approach surface is an imaginary surface as illustrated by this green line that aircraft use as they're approaching the airport looking to land. The approach surface begins typically at the end of the runway and extends up and outward at a rate of 20-1. So back in 2013, as I mentioned, the FAA notified the airport there was obstructions penetrating that. The primary reason why we're here this evening is twofold. Number one is to enhance the safety of pilots, passengers, and neighboring residents by removing those trees that are obstructing the approach surface. If those trees are not removed and they continue to remain a hazard to air navigation, the FAA places restrictions on the airport, such as loss of instrument approaches at night, or they'll shorten the runway distance, the takeoff distance available for aircraft, or the landing distance available for aircraft. So the proposed action is to remove, selectively remove vegetation on the 15 off-airport properties. We took a look at a few different alternatives, one being a no-action alternative, which essentially leaves the environment as is. The problem with that is you don't remove the hazards to air navigation. Restrictions are placed on the airport. Those restrictions ultimately jeopardize the airport's future financial health, i.e. aircraft, a larger aircraft will stop using that runway because they won't be able to get insurance, they won't be able to land at the airport. We took a look at doing some obstruction lighting. I'll just throw a plan up here to show you the overall area. But we looked at doing some obstruction lighting out in the field. The problem with obstruction lighting is the obstructions themselves are so widespread that you wouldn't be able to stick obstruction lights and capture every single tree that's penetrating the approach surface. Not only that, it would look pretty ugly to property owners, to residential property owners, particularly up in this area, to have these red, beacons or flashing lights up in the area. The other problem is the vegetation over time grows, so you'd be continuously monitoring where the tallest obstruction is and then putting in new infrastructure to light that obstruction. So as a result, the removal of the trees is the primary focus of the airport. It's difficult to say, you can't just go out there and say, okay, we're removing, 20 trees from this area, or 30 trees from there, or 100 trees from there. But what we do is we base the obstruction removal on height contours. So if you remember that approach surface that we were looking at, the closer you are to the airport, the lower the maximum height of the tree can be. The further you are away from the airport, the higher that maximum height of the tree can be. We essentially do a field verification when we're out there cutting them. What we do is ahead of time is we take a look at the different contours that we have available to us. We take a look at the approach surface height, again getting back to that 20-to-1 slope. So in different areas you may have a maximum tree height of 34 feet, the further you get out it's 43 feet, 50 feet, 55, 67, etc., etc. We're proposing to do the work during frozen ground conditions or dry or otherwise stable conditions. And again, based on the different height zones, that'll be what determines the number of trees that come down and the heights of the trees. So, don't know if you have any questions, but I'd be happy to answer them if you do.
Okay. Scott?
When you remove these trees, what's your plan after the trees are removed? Are you taking care of the stumps? Are you planting some other?
Yeah, what we do is, so we get rid of the trees in their entirety. We go down there, we cut them flush with the ground.
Yep.
Particularly when you're on a residential property, what we'll do for the property owner is cut down, grind 3, 4, 5, 6 inches in place,
Yep.
put some loam down, reseed it for the property owner, and then we're out of there.
Okay.
But the intent is to remove the vegetation in its entirety and clean it up.
Okay.
Yeah, and in the forested area, there may be some shrubs that get knocked down during the felling of the larger trees,
Sure.
but they all spring right back
Sure,
up.
right.
Especially when we're doing, if we're lucky enough to get the contract in place for a winter activity, like we are at the other end in the Fitchburg end. We got that permit about 1.5 years ago with the Fitchburg Conservation Commission, and we were planning to do that in the winter. There's really no damage to the vegetation at
Right,
that point.
right.
But this year, dry, that's our dry condition, we could do it at this time of year as well. At this time of year, most plants are senescing anyhow because of the dry weather we're having. I mean, you can probably have seen trees already losing their leaves.
Yeah.
So they're basically going dormant because of the conditions we have. And then they'll just bounce back because we don't disturb the root stock, so everything bounces back the following year. What you'll find is that the shrub layer explodes because now you've taken away the canopy and now that the light's getting to the seed stock that's laying in the ground.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to manage for going forward.
Right.
In a perfect world, the airport would stay on top of this every couple of years, and as they see a tree coming up, they take it down and they let the shrubs take over, and eventually the shrubs shade out the trees from growing. Doesn't always work that way, but that's the intent, that's the process. And from the regulatory perspective, many years ago, the state, the Mass Aeronautical, it was called Mass Aeronautical Commission back then, went through a process through the Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act, through MEPA, and described what it's called the General EIR, General Environmental Impact Report, on what these vegetation management plans were all about. How would you take them down? What time of year would you take them down? How would you manage them in the future? All of that was laid out, and they basically granted the right under limited project for the Wetlands Protection Act to go forward on these sorts of vegetation management plans. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be conditioned if commissions are concerned about certain aspects of it, but it just means that everything's been put on the table and how this is being done so that we can all move forward, because some of these places 300-400 acres in some airports, some of which are in wetland resources, some are not, but they can be fairly large in size.
Thank you.
I just had a question related to the MEPA. One of the DEP comments mentioned MEPA, and I'm not sure why they put that in.
I'm not sure why they talked about the
Yeah.
Army Corps or
But-
MEPA, because it's really not their jurisdiction, but Joe's a great guy, and I think he's just sort of tossing it up, because we called him yesterday, he said he hadn't done it yet, he goes, by the end of the day I'll get you something. So I think he just sort of threw the kitchen sink at us here. As I just mentioned, that's why I brought up the MEPA topic. The vegetation management plans have already been approved, or the concept of this has already been approved through the Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act, MEPA. As long as we demonstrate that we are following all of the limited project standards under 1053N, then we comply. We're meeting the maximum standard. In terms of MEPA, so MEPA, no one goes to MEPA anymore for this process. And the reason the state spent the money to go through probably a 1.5 to 2 year process to get it approved through MIPA was every airport that was about to do this was all stopped. They're like, oh, every one of you has to go through MIPA. And I'm like, well, what do you mean I gotta go through MIPA? The FAA is telling me I have to do this. So they said, okay, we've got to do a sort of, you folks may do this for your DPW, sort of a generic notice of intent. You have to go through the process of how do you clean your catch basins, how do you remove trees along your tree belt or along that type of thing. So we went through that process, or the state went through that process, and as I said, they described what is it, how do you clear trees? What is it supposed to be like in the future? How do you manage that? And short of endangered species issues, which we don't have here, everything else is considered legitimate now. It's all fine because it's all laid out as long as you follow those standards. And we have to notify many other agencies that most notice of intents do not. Because that under the limited project requirement, we have to notify other people. And if they're concerned about it, then they would let the project know. And so far, we haven't heard anything from those other agencies. And we typically don't. They all understand that this has to happen for the requirements for these airports. Not necessarily, it turns out to be somewhat of an economic reason for the airport, but it's really not. It's the airport safety is what they're really talking about here.
Okay, thank you. Any other commission members?
Sir? Is the plan to do, like, go in and clean this every, like, 5 years, or, you know?
Ideally, the plan is to go in there, and again, based on the tree heights, we clear those known penetrations or penetrations that are within 10 feet of the approach surface, or anything else that looks pretty eminent within the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Okay.
So the point is to try and go in there, do this clearing now, and not have to go back for several years. There may be an herbicide treatment application that comes online after the fact, but no, the intent is to not be in here every single year. It's to go in here, do the clearing, and hopefully never have to come back and do this extensive type of clearing for 15, 20 years, whatever the case may be.
I was gonna say, because it seems like you'd almost want to go lower than the
Exactly.
maximum,
Yeah.
just so that you
Go
don't
do
have
10
to go-
feet below.
Yeah, that's a good point.
5-year growth.
I
cap.
apologize. I should have prefaced that. We clear trees 10 feet below the actual approach surface to eliminate that need for repetitive disturbance of these areas. So thank you for.
And to elaborate a little bit on Matt's point about the herbicide, what the typical usage of that is to be doing stump sprouts. So as the trees get cut and they resprout, other than pine trees, which don't do that, most deciduous trees that leaf out every year, they may sprout back up. So after they grow back up a little bit, they'll spray just those short little 5-footers or so that other things aren't getting killed, and that controls that. It may take a couple of years to do that because there's not enough surface area in the stump sprout to get enough glyphosate, that's the primary chemical being used, to go down and basically kill the tree, because the trees are 6 inches, 10 inches, 20 inches in diameter. So it actually takes quite a bit of material. Not that you put a lot on each time, but every year it tries to sprout, you hit it again and it cuts it down. We, in the notice of intent, we project out a 5-year management plan. First year's cutting. Next year, herbicide on the stump sprouts. Next year after that, do it again. If you maintain that, you allow the shrubs to come up, shade out the trees from taking off, and you basically keep taking, you force the tree just to burn up its storage. It stores starch in its roots. That's how it has the ability to put the new shoot up. So if you stop that from happening, if you stop that from flushing, then you can stop them from reproducing, essentially. And that's really the goal, and it's been fairly successful. We find that in a couple of years, they're pretty petered out with their energy in the roots, that they really don't sprout back up. And by then, the shrubs are now taller than they are, or the raspberry canes that come up, or the other sort of pioneer species that jump in there, they'll pop up and they usually choke them out. And so now the stump is competing for the little light that it gets or for the little water it gets, because now everybody around it has now grown up and is now sucking more nutrients out of the ground, taking more water away from it, and taking sunlight away from it. So over time, that's the process, and it seems to work very well. We've been involved since 2000 at this airport, and most of the airports in Massachusetts doing these vegetation management plans. They are large scale, there's no question. There's not a lot of projects that are typically this size, but the management technique is fairly small in its technique. It's a large square footage is what we're talking about.
Any other commission members?
Really quick. On the third page here, the yellow line, it says 50-foot offset from approach. So this is, the runway is in this neighborhood, they'll be coming in.
So the runway is here.
Yep.
Which figure are you looking at?
I'm in the third, the more detailed page here.
So,
That's the
yeah.
one, yep.
So this is kind of the large scale. So the approach surface is going down here,
Yep.
the runway's down here.
Yep.
What we do is when we get navigation easements over these properties, what we do is we meet with the property owners. We go through an review appraisal process. We actually pay them for a navigation easement is what it's called. And what we do is we put on a 50-foot buffer. So for example, if we get an easement over parcel 24813, it's pretty difficult to say, yeah, we're right on this imaginary approach surface, so we can take this tree, but we can't take this tree. But if we give ourselves that 50-foot buffer, and we take the easement that includes that 50-foot buffer, that gives us the leeway to not only clear the trees under the approach, but make sure that we're getting everything that is under the approach.
It could lean back inside.
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm good.
Marco, there was one other DEP comment that I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was the first one. I wanted to see if they could address.
Other than consulting with the Army Corps engineers, is that the one you're talking about?
No. Stabilization? Or,
Any rutting will be restored in place if there is no discharge or dredging of fill material, then a 401 water quality certification would not be required.
there wasn't another one there?
Nope.
Well, the only other one, they said MIPA, and then they said you should be in compliance with 1053N. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
All
I
work
mean-
shall comply with 310 CR.
Yeah, I thought there was a comment about stabilization of disturbed areas, but I might have been
think
looking
that
at
was the
something
rutting.
different.
You know, what we're doing over in Fitchburg is we are putting up a compost tube type of a device for sediment control along the North Nashua River. We could do a similar type of thing around these wetlands. We don't plan to go in any of these wetlands. We can cable the trees out, we come up right up to the buffer zone and drag them out that way. That's part of the reason why we go in the winter, because things are frozen. Although, you know, a lot of wetlands don't freeze most winters, so they stay pretty swampy. These are some of these wetlands in here, not all, but the main one here, the large one you see on this particular sheet, that's a pretty swampy wetland in there. So even in the dead of winter, I think I would have a hard time freezing solid.
So we reach in, cable
Right.
out, hand felling if necessary.
Yeah, most of the machines can reach in between 16 to 20 feet depending on the unit that they use, and anything further than that, they'll throw a cable in, cut it down, hand cut it, cable it, and drag it out. Or we can buck it up in place in typically 4 to 6 foot lengths and just let it rot in place, and that becomes basically wildlife habitat within the area. We don't like to load it up because naturally you wouldn't get 75 or 100 trees dropping in the wetland all at one time. So you might overload it with organics. So we try to, ones that are difficult to get to, they'll just drop them and just buck them up in the, like I said, in the short sections and just let them rot in place. Most everything they want to take out, because the contractor who's taking this out is going to make money off the product. He's going to either sell saw logs, or he's going to sell firewood, or he's going to grind it up into pulp. He's bringing it to the nearest biomass facility.
Well, that, and keep in mind, they are privately owned properties, so
Right.
property owners don't necessarily want to deal with that mess and headache later on. So
Right.
that comes into play as well.
Yeah.
And we're very accommodating with property owners to make sure that we're doing this.
I was thinking more of the forest
Yeah.
area, but you're
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
On the residential property, it's
Yeah.
all cleared right out of there.
Okay. All right. Any other commission members?
No.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this notice of intent this evening?
I'm all set with that, and I got no problem for them to cut the tree.
Okay. Thank you.
And this is actually his property.
Okay. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this notice of intent? Is there any objections to closing the public hearing?
No objection.
Are you good?
Good.
Marco? Okay. All right, I declare the public hearing closed. Do you have a recommendation?
Yeah, recommend a standard standard order conditions for this project. Should we throw the boilerplate in on that?
Yeah, just be on the
With a-
safe side.
With a standard boilerplate.
Okay, do I have a motion for a standard order?
I will file a motion for a standard order of conditions with the boilerplate for DEP 199-1035.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other comments?
No.
Okay, all in favor? And opposed?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just a question, boilerplate means a list and you check off the ones that apply, or what's your,
Yeah, basically,
Okay.
there's some in there like no phosphorus use and, for residential
Okay.
areas, but you'll know which ones apply to you.
yeah, okay,
Excellent.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
I just realized we don't have a scribe tonight.
She couldn't make it, so she's gonna do it all from
Okay,
the video.
all right. Okay, moving on to our regular meeting, we have enforcement, 375 Harvard Street, DEP file number 199-781. Do we have any updates?
No updates. I notified the engineer and the property owner per the recommendation of the Conservation Commission at the July 19th meeting. And I could read what I wrote to them.
Sure.
Okay, I said, the commission requested at the July 19th meeting that I contact you for an update on progress made with the restoration plan for 375 Harvard Street. I've attached a letter that I provided to Mr. DeMassa at the start of the enforcement case. In this letter, it states that a restoration plan for the affected wetland areas be submitted within 60 days of March 11th, 2016. This plan is now 80 days past the initial 60-day time frame allocated by the commission. I said if the commission does not receive information regarding the restoration plan of the impacted wetland areas by the August 9th conservation meeting, they may decide to take legal action against the property owner. We appreciate your cooperation in this matter. Please contact me with any questions or concerns. Signed, Marco L. Bancrozi.
You heard nothing?
And I haven't heard anything.
Was that a certified letter?
That was not certified. That was an email to engineer and the property owner.
Okay. Until I just heard it wasn't certified, I would have recommended requesting Copeland and Page. But I think we should send this certified immediately and give them a week
That's fine.
and then
Agreed.
contact Copeland.
That's fine. You got it?
Just to make sure that they get it because, could have been a problem with email or,
Sure. Yep, cover all bases. We'll do that.
Do you need a motion?
yeah.
File a motion to send a certified letter of our intentions for DEP 199-791, 375 Harvard Street.
Do you want to get the time frame in there?
With response back to the Conservation Commission within 5 business days
Of receiving that letter.
of receiving the letter.
Is there a
Thank you.
second?
I'll second that.
Any other conversation? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. I'd like to get this taken care of soon.
Agreed.
Okay. And 4 Sawyer Way, DEP file number 199-855.
Sure. So I found the plans referenced within the order of conditions, and it mentions the infiltration or interception swale. That's what it is shown. So I have one of the entire plan, and then underneath that is kind of like a blown up map. That interception swale was for the order conditions for the roadway, which is DEP file number 199-825. It's titled NOI Plan Day Street Development and dated 9/10/2006. So the swale in question is identified as an interception swale, and it is roughly placed on the plans. There's no detail of how it was constructed, no mention of it in the stormwater or drainage report, nor is it identified on the as-built plans for the roadway. So the real holdup with this was not being able to find the plans for the roadway construction, but I was able to locate them. And there's no mention on anything else, but it's definitely there, obviously.
But it wasn't on the as-built?
It was not shown on the as-built plan.
It may not have been built when the road was done. It may not have been done until
Well,
that
if
house
it-
lot.
If it was with the order of conditions for the roadway, it should have been. Right?
Yep, definitely should have, but.
I guess, I don't understand what it's actually, the purpose was in the first place, looking at this plan. I mean, I know to keep it from going down the slope, but I don't know what it's capturing.
Sure. Because that is all grassed, vegetated area. It's not impervious until you get down to the driveway.
It doesn't look like it was gonna capture anything from the roadway. Could be wrong.
Unless there were, is there some sort of, maybe there was a spring there or something that,
There had been intermittent streams, but they were labeled as drainage swales throughout that property. I believe there was 4. I don't believe this was one of them.
And now it's paved, right, correct?
Correct. It had been filled in along the driveway, the length of the driveway, and paved over.
The blue line that's on here, do you know what that is?
It
Or
wasn't
is or
labeled.
was?
It was, I think, on the plans that I have, is like crayon on there. I'm not entirely sure what it was.
Same with the yellow line. What's that yellow?
I think the yellow line was for erosion control.
No.
I guess my question is this in a jurisdictional area now?
It's flagged as wetland. There are wetland flags on the plan for that area. It doesn't appear that they filled any wetland per se.
Right, but they did work within a jurisdictional area just
Right.
by paving it.
Correct.
Does anybody have any recommendations or thoughts on this?
Have we notified the owner?
I have not.
No.
I was waiting on the commission to.
We were waiting to find a plan to see what actually
Right.
was supposed to happen there.
I mean, obviously this plan is 10 years old. It looks like there's, this purple line looks like WF1, WF1A. I'm assuming those are wetland
They are.
flags. I mean, obviously this is old, so not to guarantee that that's where it would be, but
Sure.
they basically worked within a 100-foot buffer zone without coming to us, or at least doing any research, so. I think we should at least notify the property owner that you did something
In a jurisdiction.
in a jurisdictional area, comment, and just see what it, I mean, I hate to have somebody take out their driveway and take out all this fill area, but.
Right,
At
and that will
least-
require a filing if it's jurisdictional
Sure.
anyway.
Right, but I mean, at least get notified that that's a problem and what, see what they have to say about the whole thing,
Okay.
I mean, that'd be my thought.
Do we want to ask them to attend the next meeting and we can,
If we can get hold of them, yeah, just so we
I'll
can,
give them a month
yeah,
to be able to come in.
Yeah.
you know, maybe they, if they're new property owners, maybe they didn't, most people don't know.
It's
that,
probably
you
just
know,
something as simple as that.
And they just filled it in and said, hey, I wanna make my driveway bigger, and,
Right.
you know.
Yep.
One thing on this that I seem to remember is that that slope was just incredibly steep, and I'm almost thinking that the commission asked for that, because if you looked at the slope, everything was sloping right down to the wetland, so it was just a way to potentially catch, you know,
Slow down.
slow things down a little bit, you know, keep things from just a direct, you know, pitch directly into a wetland.
I checked the minutes for that meeting, and I didn't see any mention of it.
I remember from being on the site, just looking at it, and we, you know, that particular house lot was sort of like,
Oh, I believe it.
you know, I don't even know how they're gonna get a house there, you know, because of the way it was pitched. And so I wanna say that, I don't know if that came about from, if it was already there, or if it was something that came about while we were on the site.
Could've.
But I do recall that sort of that particular lot being really sort of questionable about, as to the stability and everything. So it might have been as simple as just to catch, you know, sheet flow off of that property, so it's not just racing to the wetland.
True.
Which now is gonna be exasperated because now you have impervious.
Right, 'cause I think you had some pictures. and it's
I
pretty-
did, yeah.
Comes off driveway was pretty steep, and it
Yes.
goes right
Yeah.
down to that,
I
so.
wonder if you could put an interception swale on the other side of the driveway, rather than ripping up a driveway.
Yeah, instead
There
of
could
ripping
be
it
room, because
up,
they,
fix it, so.
you could see the old silt fence line, and they hadn't filled over that. So there might be some room to squeeze something in there.
If I remember correctly, there was the driveway, and then there was gravel.
Gravel.
Okay, and then there was the old silt, yes.
I mean, at least, you know, it's very costly, obviously, to tear up a driveway, but
Right.
go in and potentially fix, under, you know, go in there and fix the swale or do whatever, so. It sounded, you know, obviously not knowing, but it's, looking at the plan, it probably, what that swale is designed to do is just kind of slow that down. Yeah.
Okay. So do we want to ask them to come in, or do we just want to tell them that they're in violation and they need to fix it by putting in a swale?
They would still have to file for that.
Right.
So we can notify and have them.
Seeing it's a homeowner, I'd rather,
They could, for a swale, they could just do a determination.
you know,
So-
just have them come in and.
I'm trying to avoid having them come back 2 or 3 times.
Could they just do
Yeah.
it, could we do it under enforcement, where they just
Just
ask them to do it as under enforcement, so they don't even have to file? Just say we want the swale replaced, and that way they're not going through the expense of filing. But we're still gonna, and that way we can actually help them and,
Sure. Give them an idea
Give
of
them
what
guidance.
we're looking for.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
Okay.
probably the cheapest, easiest way, I would
try
think.
to make it as
but,
painless as
Yeah.
possible for
You know,
them.
whether it's have them
Kinda
come here at least just once to say, hey, this is what happened, you need to fix it. We can tell you kind of how to fix it or what we'd like to see done, and whether you do it through an RDA or enforcement or whatever.
Right.
I personally don't care, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as it gets fixed, and you definitely want to notify them that, oh, by the way,
Oh, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
if
They'll-
there's something
they'll do
wrong.
it more.
We'll have them put up the placard signs too.
Yeah, and then when it's all
Yeah.
done, we put up the little wetlands flags, not the flags, the signs and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, it's working.
Does somebody want to make a motion to whatever you want to have them do?
What do you think's easier, Larry?
I would say the enforcement, I
Enforcement.
mean, it sounds like a negative thing, but it really is gonna be like more cost effective for the homeowner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would recommend though, instead of just sending something certified in the mail, if you can give them a call or stop over
Sure.
and explain to them the process.
We'll do.
Yeah.
We do
So
have
no.
that letter, at one time we were doing like, there's just letters of non-compliance,
Non-compliance, yeah.
which might be it's a more friendly way without actually filing an enforcement order.
Yeah,
Okay.
like the state sends out the notice of non-compliance, kind of like
Right.
I'll word it nicely.
do something. I just think it's, yeah, something like that, saying, hey, by the way, you screwed up, but we'll help you fix it.
Sure.
As
Yeah.
inexpensively as, you know, or whatever, basically.
Mhm.
Agreed.
So we
Yep.
can do it under enforcement.
Okay, so, do you want to make a motion?
All right, I'll make a motion to send a notification to property owners, and do this under the enforcement for the Sawyer Way, for Sawyer Way.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
Just a question on that.
Mhm.
Can I type up the enforcement? I only needs the agent's signature on it. Can I have that ratified at the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any communications?
None.
Do we have minutes?
I threw this as an item because I wasn't sure if I was gonna get them, but I
Yeah, we
didn't.
don't have anything.
So, yeah, so we don't have any minutes.
Nope.
All right, old business,
None?
new business, we have 138 Old Tavern Road, DEP file number 199-876, plan change. Oh, I was actually wondering, I'm like, what is Anthony here for? Thank you.
It's a lot prettier than mine. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
My name is Anthony Cleaves, I'm with Whitman Bingham Associates, here on behalf of the property owner, Mr. Caruthi. So we're here tonight to discuss some plan changes that they'd like to propose for the lot. Plans I passed out to you. One was a copy of the plan that was originally approved. There was an order issued in 2008, March of 2008. And an extension was also issued, so the permit is valid until 2018. And so the one plan I gave you was the one that was approved in 2008, and the other one is the alterations. So the biggest thing is that the plan that we had approved originally shows you, I think we typically do a standard rectangular house to get to the permitting process in a general sense. And so new property owners, they have a specific house they would like to build. And so that, the plan has been updated to show that. You can see the different house styles for that. And then, so in that, the garage is on the, as you're looking at the left-hand side. So in order to get cars to there, we altered the driveway as it gets closer to the house to sneak around to the left. And then also, we've shown a foundation drain extending a little further into the buffer zone just to make sure daylight's out into the slope. But we also added to that is we show riprap from the end of the foundation drain down to the end of basically grading. What we're concerned with there is sometimes you put a foundation drain out, looks great on paper, but if you discharge it to a newly created slope with no vegetation on that, it could tend to erode. So we wanted to show some rock down there to make sure that that erosion doesn't happen after construction. And then also a change that you can see is the rear of the house. We've created some grading to accommodate more of a backyard behind the house. All of that is out of the buffer zone. In blue, you'll see a dashed line, which is the buffer zone. The house, everything behind the house and whatnot is out of the buffer zone, but I want to note that that's a change that you see on the plan. The driveway from Old Tavern Road to the wetland crossing and a little bit beyond the wetland crossing have not changed. The wetland impacts are the same, fillings are the same, so all of that stayed consistent. It was really just the house itself and things up towards the house where the changes are occurring. So we're hoping this be considered a minor modification and not require a new notice of intent.
Is the house now right at the 100-foot?
Yep.
It's right at the 100-foot
Yep.
now.
Yep.
I think the riprap is a definite improvement.
Oh, actually, I'm going to point out one more thing, sorry. With that steep slope in the back, another thing we wanted to do, because we do have a cut into that, we want to put a wick drain at the toe of that slope. Again, just to make sure there isn't any drainage issues coming into the house, or if there is a groundwater, we want to capture that and not have the slope fail because groundwater is seeping out of the slope. And then we do run a pipe out around the house, that's because of the bottom of your plan, and discharges towards that way. Again, another riprap channel down to make sure that that's protected as well for erosion. And then I can also point out too, the land disturbance, again, most of it occurring outside the buffer zone now, ends up creating more than an acre of disturbance. So we will be filing a NIPPED's permit with EPA and they're preparing a SWIP for that. It might be like an acre and a half, so just over, but we're going to go through that process as well.
Commission members, yes.
Retaining walls are new here on the right-hand side of the house.
Yeah, out of the buffer zone as well.
Yeah, just
Just terracing that, you know.
how high are they?
Geez, we had, so it's terracing it, so the lower one is about a foot or so, and then the one behind it on the low side, 1.5 to a 3 foot.
Okay, so the minimal.
So, you know, we shouldn't need a building permit for that or under the 4 feet in height.
Thank you, I just get too old to read these things.
Yeah, oh, no problem. This is a tough one too. There's a lot of information on this. Actually, there's a couple other walls too. I was looking at the ones kind of in the rear of the house. There's some more stone walls there in the front. You know, same thing, about a 1.5 to 2 foot wall on that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
The hay bale and silt fence line, is that gonna be right up against the wetland?
Yeah, so-
Because you have the drainage right
So
there,
there's two lines. If I can point you down to the wetland replication detail at the bottom. So what you're seeing on the plan, the cross hatched purple/pink red color there, that's the wetland replication area. So what we typically do for that is we have the hay bale silt fence line along the wetland replication area. Even though it's not wetland yet, we still want to protect that from erosion. Then on the other side, the downhill side of the replication area along the wetlands, we also have a line of hay bales as well. So there's kind of double protection. We want to protect the newly created wetlands. We don't want to undo what we're trying to do, but also protect the wetlands as well. And we do have some also erosion controls along the property line. Look at the top and bottom of the plan. There just to protect erosion from kind of going off into the neighboring properties where it could be susceptible based on the grading.
Anything else? Any other questions?
Nope.
So you're asking for this to just be a
Yeah, just-
minor change to the plan?
Yes.
I have no problem with that. Marco, do you have any recommendation on that?
Yeah, I recommend we say this is a minor change.
It's shown on the as-built.
Yeah, I believe it's, I have to check the order of conditions actually. There may not be an as-built required, but I know that was something that was always It was instituted later on in typical order of conditions. Yeah, that's, those orders back in 2008, I don't see
No,
that
it's
they hadn't made it in that time frame,
I believe it was 2010 we
We
imposed.
started to add, so it's still back, the old certificate of compliance request would be, you know, a letter from an engineer,
Right.
because there was a plan involved to note any deficiencies or deviations from the plan. Which, I mean, I think in this small, single-family home project, that probably could still suffice, where most of the work is out of the buffer zone, it really becomes the crossing, becomes the thing to look at in the wetland application area.
Okay.
Is there a plan to replicate this and have a plan submitted and have it reviewed, you know, like by a wetland?
It hadn't been part of the original approval, so there wasn't.
Well, who's gonna be doing the replication there?
So, you know, a contractor will probably dig it out, you know, what we typically do is the soil you fill for the wetlands.
Yeah.
You stave that and spread that in there, and you have to just grade that out a little bit, flatten it out to make sure it's consistent with the grade, so
yeah.
it stays and takes. And then a lot of times, you know, small ones like this, we just let it go and let the natural vegetation take over. But that's something that we can work with the conservation agent on too.
So, do I have a motion to accept these changes to 199,876 as minor changes?
I will file a motion to accept the changes for DEP 199876, 138 Old Tavern Road as minor changes.
Okay, a second.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, certificate of compliance, 30 Bedoin Lane, DEP file number 199,684, expired 7/26/03.
Sure, I actually have the applicant here with me. I inspected the property yesterday, that was August 8th, 2016. We have a letter from Hannigan Engineering, some pictures of the site. Now, 199,684 was for the construction of the single-family home, the buffer zone. Everything's stabilized over there, it looks really good, it looks great. The order condition specified to have wetland plates along the tree line, and I put those up yesterday, put a couple, 3 of them up. So,
When were these pictures taken?
that was taken about a week ago.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. Pride in home ownership for sure.
Does anybody have any questions on this?
No.
So Marco, I'm assuming it's, your recommendation is to issue us.
Correct, yeah. Yep.
Do I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 199,684, 30 Bedoin Lane?
I will file a motion for a certificate of compliance for DEP 199684, 30 Bedoin Lane.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. And another one, 30 Bedoin Lane, DEP file number 199,947.
Yep, that was basically a catch basin and a discharge that was installed. I believe it was, this was issued in 2012. Again, I inspected the property on Monday, and you know, everything looks like it was installed correctly as per the plans. There wasn't any boilerplate for that order conditions. It's just the standard order conditions for it. So I recommend we issue a certificate of compliance for the project, DEP file number 199947.
Okay. Is there any questions on that?
None.
Do I have a motion?
I'll file a motion for to issue a certificate of compliance with DEP 199947, 30 Bedoin Lane.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Right. Good.
If you call Ron.
Thank you. Thank you for waiting for so long.
Oh, that's okay, understandable. Good night.
Right.
Okay, we have extension permits, Lot 5, Sawtell Road, DEP file number 199982.
Yep, this was discussed last meeting, July 19th, about wetland replication for those lots. We noticed that the orders were due to expire in October. And so the commission recommended I contact the property owner to seek an extension permit so the wetlands could be replicated at some point in time in the near future. Also, we'd have to schedule a time to meet up and look at the site, review the site.
I remember that,
I have a request for a 3-year extension for Lot 5 and Lot 6 on Sawtell Road by Karen Brewer, who is the applicant for these 2 orders of conditions.
Okay. Is there any questions on that? Do I have a motion to issue a 3-year extension for DEP file number 199982, Lot 5, Sawtell Road?
I'll file a motion for 199-982 Lot 5 Sawtell Road.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? And the same thing for Lot 6, Sawtell Road, DEP file number 199979.
I'll file a motion for an extension permit for 199979 Lot 6 Sawtell Road.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Do we have any emergency certifications?
Nope.
Project update requests?
Grant Street, I noticed someone's actually moved into one of those houses.
Sure, yeah.
I'm assuming certificates will be coming in when it's all done.
I will notify the contractor.
No, it's not. I was just shocked.
Is that the 2 houses?
There's
side by
2
side?
houses on Grant and
There's
someone
some-
moved into one.
There's some stockpiling behind the house on the left too, that's
Right.
really, really close to the wetlands.
It's heavily vegetated.
Yeah,
It hasn't moved at all. They also hydroseeded the
Yeah.
built the property there.
Oh, it looks fine, I was just shocked how.
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
quickly
they-
somebody moved in, and I know that's what happens is people move in. Bill just says or doesn't say something and then.
Yeah, they seem to escape the certificate of compliance step. So I'll reiterate the necessity for that.
Because it looks like that other house will be done shortly, so.
Mm.
Oh,
That project looks like it'll be finished up pretty quick. So. The other thing is, I happened to be over on Lancaster Street today, over by the industrial hardware. I know it's not jurisdictional, I know a lot of work's been done over there.
It is jurisdictional.
It is, okay.
It has an order of conditions for that project.
Okay, I know they were here, and I remember there was some issues. They were breaking rock, kind of right at the edge of what was worked on. You know, when you drive by, you can see where he did the parking lot, he put the retaining wall.
Yeah.
I didn't go on the property, I happened to be a few houses down in the backyard. I couldn't really see, but it's getting pretty close to the actual wetland that's there, so I would just like you to take a quick ride by just to look.
Will do.
I was there and I could hear the hammer, they were breaking rock.
So breaking concrete or rock? Or?
They were breaking something, they had a small mini excavator there, it's just, if it was in the parking lot, I wouldn't be quite as concerned, but this is like on the edge and it almost looked like it was kind of over the banking.
Sure. There is a drainage, there's a discharge there with some riprap in there. So
I mean,
I'll
it
check
might be
out.
working, just take a quick
Well,
ride and
I'll
just
take a
see what
look.
that looks, that's all.
Cool.
So I didn't want to go there today, I couldn't really see it. Where they worked was very close to that kind of flat wetland area.
Sure.
So,
All right. Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
Nope.
Okay, Okay, do we have any updates on the budget?
So far, FY17, I've deposited $1,075 into the Wetland Protection Fund. And that is congruent with what is shown on Munis database.
Okay, do you
Oh, it's
have,
in Munis now?
It is Munis.
Oh, I thought they couldn't put it in Munis.
I can see my deposits, but it doesn't stack for each
Oh,
year.
it doesn't,
It
okay.
only does it for that fiscal year.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So at the end of the fiscal year, that's what I did this previous fiscal year, I double checked with the comptroller to make sure that money had been deposited.
Okay.
So I'll do the same FY17 with FY17.
okay, do you have any report?
I do not have a report.
Okay, I don't have any report. Our next meeting is September 13th, 2016. Deadline is September 1st. Is there anything else?
Nope.
Okay, declare this meeting adjourned.